Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrea. That was very, that was a very nice intro that you gave me. All right, what I'm going to do is share my slide. So here we go. Hopefully. Okay. Great. Wonderful. Thanks, James. All right, I'll kick off. Again, thank you, Andrea, for the lovely introduction and just providing a little bit of context as to my background. I do want to talk a little bit about what Nilo do, just to provide some additional context to why we so strongly believe in the relationship between employee experience and customer experience. And that really starts, like with any business, I believe anyway, with our purpose. We really believe in the powerful potential of businesses to have a positive impact on people, on organizations, and on communities. And so our vision is a future where all businesses provide positive value in every experience that they create. And experiences that they create, be it for their employees, be it for their customers, or any other stakeholders that they have interactions with. Our mission is to help businesses create experiences that really excite customers and inspire employees, ultimately to have more positive impact in the societies that we all belong to. And so the values that we really take on board are to put family first, to connect positively, use our creativity, think of the future, and learn always. And so I share this because I believe at the highest level, feeling a sense of meaning and purpose in what we do is what matters. The sun or North Star that guides us is our core belief in the powerful potential of businesses to have positive impact. We recognize that people gravitate towards people and businesses that have a clear, unequivocal, and positive impact in their team, or their organization, or more broadly speaking, in the industry that they're in. And so, they want to be working for a business that they can be proud of, identify with, and advocate for. And that's how I feel about Nilo, and exactly why we're in pursuit of helping businesses build an ecosystem of experiences that inspire employees and excites customers. So how do we do this? We do this by partnering EX with CX, employee experience initiatives that are strategically aligned with customer experience initiatives, and vice versa. And I'll talk through and break this down a little bit further. But I just want to call out first, throughout this presentation, I am going to be asking the audience questions. And so I'd really love for you to please comment, share your thoughts. In this situation, there are no wrong or right answers. So would love for you to please share in the chat. So if you see this icon, this is your call to action. This icon will be in the top right-hand corner of the screen. And if you see it, really love for you to contribute in the chat. All right, so why does experience matter? The experiences we have in our day-to-day lives, they influence how we think and what beliefs and perceptions we have. Now, it's these beliefs and perceptions that in turn guide our behavior, how we act or don't act, and the decisions that we make or don't make. And so it's really interesting to take a closer look at the psychology behind human behavior to demonstrate why experiences we create in the work that we do is really so important. So now thinking of those experiences as touch points that any given employee or customer or stakeholder has within our business, think of those touch points. They are the things that drive the way that we think or perceive about the business, and that obviously then in turn guides our behavior toward that business, right? So whether it's the discretionary effort in the work that we do as an employee within the business, or whether it's impacting our decision to buy a product or service as a customer from that business, right? And so this is how we apply this notion of experience to business. Now, experiences created by businesses are really central in everything that they do. If we pay attention to the touch points, that is, the various ways that customers, that employees, and other stakeholders come into contact with our business, and this might be physically, it might be virtually, probably more virtually now these days. It could be verbally or non-verbally. We can see and reflect on how some touch points are bigger or more important or critical, and some are smaller. But it's the ways that they're perceived and the impression that they make that really matters. And so here I've just provided some examples of what some touch points might be. So on the left-hand side of the screen, I've got here examples of what might be reflected from an internal point of view, from an employee experience point of view, and on the right-hand side might be from a customer point of view, a customer experience perspective. That being said, a lot of them are interchangeable. So, it might be a face-to-face interaction that you have. It could be an email exchange. It might be a company policy. It might be how much pay you get, or, what things that you have in the workplace environment. Do you have a ping pong table there? It might be your shopping checkout experience, or what the website looks like, how people interact on the phone call, what a display window might look like, or how the receptionist greets you when you walk in. So these are just some broad examples of different touch points that we have that really create the experience we have of a particular business. And so great experiences lead to great impact, right? Going back to the cognitive behavioral link between experience and impact, we can think about it as a series of concentric circles, right? Each incorporating and influenced by the others. The touch points represent all of the interactions that any given person, whether it's an employee, customer, or stakeholder, that has with our business. So it's these touch points that form experiences which drive what they think about the business, their beliefs, which in turn guide their behavior. And so if we multiply this across every customer, employee, and stakeholder that comes into contact with the business, you can see that the impact is actually quite profound. And so notice the icon in the top right-hand corner. In the company that you work for, what are the most impactful employee experience touch points that exist within your business? Is it, I'll refer back to some examples here. Might it be the policies that you have, the conversations that you have with other people, the phone calls that you make with each other? What are the touch points that are most impactful for you, or most impactful for your business or the company that you work for? So just pop it in the chat. Systems and processes. Thanks, Sandra. Absolutely, yes. If they're not very well structured, then that can definitely have a big impact. When joining the company, the onboarding experience is so important. Absolutely, and Josie's just jumped on that whole process as well. How you're greeted, how you're treated, making sure that you're being provided with all of the tools that you need, making sure that you're set up for success, that you actually understand, the people that work there, the structure of the business. But Andrea makes a really important point that exit is just as important, because just because they're not an employee anymore doesn't mean that they're no longer talking about the business, right? They're still sharing that experience with them in every following work experience that they have moving forward. And absolutely, yeah, Sandra, right at the start, from the recruitment hiring team that engage at the onset, absolutely. Thanks so much. And I really love that there was this common theme of onboarding and, how we treat people when they're first in that that stage of immersing themselves within the business and really looking to adapt to this new environment that they're part of and this new job that they're in too. Physical environment, communication, tools and resources. Thanks so much, Andrew. All really, really great ideas. And James, digital touch points, absolutely. And we know we now recognize how important those digital touch points are. All right, that's really good. I'm glad that we've started to get some thinking around what employee experience touch points are most impactful. And so now think about, in the company that you work for, what are the most impactful customer experience touch points? Are they different or are they the same? Send me through your ideas. You know, obviously there is also a certain element of onboarding of a customer, depending on what kind of product or service that's being provided, but often that's not necessarily the case if they're simply purchasing a product. Timely communication at all stages, absolutely. Thanks, Nikki. Anyone else? Sometimes it is a little bit harder to really recognize what these might be. Onboarding and ongoing support, absolutely. Education around product usage. That's actually, I think that's a really important one. Product changes, manager conversation and support. Reliability of the network. Yes, very important if you're in utilities. Thanks, Sandra. All right. And so, you know, EX and CX demonstrate this virtuous cycle. There is an inextricable link between customers and employees. Ultimately, no matter who you are, business leaders seek to attract, engage, and retain them. You know, from an internal point of view, business leaders seek to attract, engage, and retain their employees, but they do the same for their customers. Yet we have a very different approach to initiatives that are in support of each of them. You know, whether it's an employee experience or a customer experience one, it's not always the case that that, for instance, the HR department or the people and culture department are working in tandem with the marketing department or the BD part of things, or the customer service department. And that's where we want to try and see a little bit of a change, that people are recognizing the importance of the virtuous cycle that connects these two. And so, you know, who's heard of the phrase "love is love"? You've probably heard of it. This means that, you know, love is expressed by an individual or couple, that love is valid regardless of, you know, sexual orientation or gender identity, right? We recognize that it doesn't matter who you are, what gender you might be, what your sexual orientation is, that love is love. It's the same. So I like to borrow this concept in the phrase, people are people, right? Meaning that the investment of experience initiatives by a business is important regardless if it's for a customer or if it's for an employee. They're still people, they're still humans, and we still, for both of them, whether they're a customer or an employee, we are still seeking to attract, engage, and retain them, right? And so we like to apply this thinking with businesses across both parts. And so customer experience and employee experience are part of one whole system and can't be separated. Even if you try to, if you improve EX or employee experience, you'll have, you know, more aligned employees that are more motivated, that are more engaged, and ultimately your CX will improve. It's very difficult to limit the impact of improving your employee experience to just the employee experience. That doesn't follow on through to the customer experience. And likewise, if you improve customer experience, Your employees will have something to be proud of and see that their work is part of something bigger than themselves, which then has a positive impact on your employee experience. So both the internal and external perspectives count though. You know, sometimes we only pay attention to one, or departments within the business can be a little bit siloed in their thinking about this. And so to actually turn experiences into results requires an approach that is underpinned by this cognitive behavioral science, because like I say, people are people, right? We're all humans. That are driven by, you know, very similar things. And so to understand why employees and customers behave the way that they do requires an understanding of the experiences they have and the underlying beliefs that these drive. Changing results or behaviors requires changing the system at the experience level. And so it's the cognitive behavioral link that explains why these results are so dramatic. And absolutely, it's so important to make sure that they're linked, Sandra, to the employee value proposition, which is really demonstrative of how you can combine EX with CX. And so how does EX drive CX? I mean, you know, broadly speaking, improving EX enhances things like capability, productivity, well-being, motivation, performance, engagement, retention, and advocacy, which ultimately improves, you know, the service that we provide to customers, the product quality for customers, as well as the improved delivery of value for customers. And this is what's really important. In a Temkin Group study, 79% of companies with engaged employees had a significantly better customer experience than companies who didn't. For me, I feel like that's unsurprising, but we're still struggling to see to see more investment and more attention given to investing in employee experience initiatives to drive CX. And it's these companies that have happier employees, and they're more willing to provide that above and beyond customer experience, you know, for the people that they work with. And so something we tend to think about are, you know, specific memorable moments that we have with people at work and how we're treated by them. But for you, again, here's your call to action. You see that icon in the top right-hand corner. What are the most impactful factors that have shaped your personal employee experience? Let me know, what are the things that made an impact on you? So when you think of, okay, am I happy where I work? Whether it's in your current job or in a previous one, what has been the main factors that have helped shape your employee experience? Having IT set up from day one. Yes, demonstration of values, absolutely. My boss, yes. They say that if you leave a company, it's generally you're not leaving the business or a job, you're leaving your boss, and this is ultimately the biggest impact that they have. And so the impact goes the other way too. If you have a really good boss, that's usually a key driver in helping you want to stay, you know, someone who supports your autonomy and those sorts of things. Accessible leadership, absolutely. Asking employees why they stay, they think of going, and what they change about their employee experience, yes. The people I work with, absolutely. Yes, and whether they stay in contact when they're on any type of extended leave, really, but maternity and paternity leave is absolutely so important. What's really important, I'll share with you some results from this study. So this employee experience study by Gartner, it was close to 6,000 employees, found these to be the top 10 memorable experiences. So these are really interesting, and you can see where actually when people think of a memorable experience at work or an impactful experience at work, there's good and bad, right? And what comes through is, if you've had a poor experience with them, is that comes right to the top. And interestingly, here we see that the number one most memorable experience in the context of measuring employee experience is being discriminated at work. Then we have taking maternity or paternity leave, and Andrea made a good comment there about whether people are kept in contact during that time. Having to relocate, being passed over promotion is a very memorable experience. Establishing flexible schedules or work arrangements, managing an underperformer, changing a benefits election, hiring a new person, getting injured, and conflict at work. Yes, and so it's interesting to think, obviously, we're not just thinking about the positive experiences, but the negative ones too. And it's important to not only measure the good ones, but the bad ones, so that we can do what we can to make sure we're addressing and rectifying any negative experiences that are happening. And so these are all impactful experience, and therefore the biggest opportunities to change, to move the needle where you're going to see the biggest impact. And so imagine if, you know, down the line, we could see that that a lot of these top memorable experiences were actually positive ones. That's the kind of world that we at Milo want to see, you know, more positive, memorable experience of a business rather than negative ones. So I've been working with a client on a what I call a talent and potential project. And I've developed a talent and potential framework that looks at these 5 different dimensions across social intelligence, teaming intelligence, organizational intelligence, mindset intelligence, and subject matter expert intelligence. So looking more broadly at all of these different points of view. And what we've done is we've looked at different ways in which we can make an assessment of these different things. And what we recognize is that, for example, what I believe my talent is, pardon me, or my potential is, might be different from the behavior that I, you know, the way that I act in the workplace, but it also might be different from an external point of view. And so we were quite conscious of making sure that we were taking into account these different perspectives and really taking a 360 perspective by asking, by doing research and asking people to respond to a survey in regards to, you know, their beliefs and behaviors from an internal point of view, but then also taking the perceptions of the people that they work with, so their peers, their subordinates, direct reports, their managers, etc., as well as the clients that they work with, so that we could see what the alignment was across those different perspectives and across those different points of view. And so there are a number of different attributes that we looked at, right? There were 60 odd different ones. So in mindset intelligence, these are the things that demonstrate how you think. In social intelligence, these demonstrate how you relate to others. In teaming intelligence, it's how you motivate others. In organizational intelligence, how do you commercialize the business? And subject matter expertise intelligence is in what you know that's specific to your industry or your business or your company. And so what I'd like you to consider is, you know, what are the key talent attributes that impact customer experience? So thinking of different attributes, skills, traits, what do you believe has the biggest positive impact on customer experience? And it doesn't have to be anything that I've shown on the previous slide here, but you know, it might help trigger some ideas, and you're very welcome to borrow anything that's there. But thinking about what has the biggest impact on customer experience, what do you think it is? What attribute, you know, would you, if you put yourself in customers' shoes and you were dealing with someone from a business, what would you hope they'd be? How would they interact with you? So tell me, authentic, Absolutely. Positive with a solution mindset. Yes, absolutely. Anyone else? Knowledgeable. Yes. Like you are the reason they have a job. Absolutely. Community driven. Really good. Responsive. Yes. Empathy. Oh, I'm so glad that you said that, Andrew, because that takes me to my next point. Now I'll give you another case study that sort of tags on from the previous one that I spoke to. But essentially, actually, before I moved on to that, essentially what we're trying to do is really identify, across these different dimensions, which of these have the biggest impact on customer experience, and therefore allowing us to prioritize where should learning and development go, where should the investment go in terms of what qualities or attributes we really want to focus on for our people, and also, who are the people that are best served to provide a really great customer experience. And this is how we can really line up the strategic initiatives between employee experience and customer experience. So in going to this next case study, another client that we've done work with, we did some customer experience research with them, and the company, they were focusing a lot of initiatives on how they can make their website better, easier to navigate around, more digestible information, and how they can hasten the process of how long it takes to deal with this particular company in terms of a process that they go through. And so they hypothesize, what are the important things that we can do and focus on to improve our customer experience. And so they put a lot of attention and money, and I'm talking a lot of money, into developing their website and really, doing a huge refresh. And they thought that they were doing a good job, but they didn't really see the needle move that much when it came to looking back at the satisfaction that the customers were experiencing. And actually, when we did some research and asked the customers of this particular business, what were the most important factors that contributed to your customer satisfaction, it was actually not that at all. It was around their ability to demonstrate empathy. And Andrew, this is why I was really pleased that you said that. And, maybe it's not necessarily the case for every single business. Of what we recognize is that what employees expect from a particular business can be quite unique depending on the product or service that they deliver, right? But through doing this research, we were able to identify where should focus go. And for this particular business, focus needed to go on demonstrating empathy. It had nothing to do with how good their website was. And so through this process, we were able to demonstrate where they should put their priorities. And they were able to save a whole lot of money on their website, because then they ended up putting together a whole strategic initiative across the business that enhanced, that was able to sort of develop their empathy skills within the business. And that's part of what we're doing at the moment. And so we did a customer research. Project to understand what the customers wanted. And in understanding what that is, which was demonstrating empathy, we are now doing an employee experience initiative where we're actually training all employees in every single department how to better demonstrate empathy in the work that they do across all of the touch points they have. And this is how we can see the really cool connection between EX and CX. So think of a time that you've had a really remarkable customer experience. What made it remarkable? And when I say remarkable, what I mean by this is it was so worthy of attention that you remarked on it to someone else. So tell me, when has there been a time when you were like, that was such great service, they were so lovely, you should definitely go to that restaurant, they were great? You know, what was the thing that made that customer experience remarkable to you? That it was genuine, that it was authentic and truthful? Yes. That they actually spoke to you as the woman in buying a car? Yes. That the person engaged with care and compassion, very personal customer service? Absolutely. These are the things that matter. And what we'll notice is that, like we're seeing here, it's actually the people that create the most lasting memories of a brand, whether it's good or bad. Obviously, we have all of these virtual touch points, but it's the employees more often than not that create those lasting memories for a particular brand that you've done business with. You know, if you're a customer of that person, it's usually an employee there that gives you that lasting impression. And it's the employees that are also best placed to identify problems and develop meaningful solutions, if they're given the tools, training, environment, and autonomy to do so. And that's where the opportunity is, right? If businesses recognize that employees can be the most impactful factor in creating lasting memories of a customer experience, and they recognize that they're best placed to identify problems and meaningful solutions, then it's up to the business to give them the tools, the training, the environment, and the autonomy to do just that. Right. And so the business impact, this is one of the takeaway financial benefits that I'd really like to hone in. Companies that combine CX and EX are 21% more profitable and achieve almost 50% higher earnings per share than their competitors. So this is the business impact, or the ROI. But for me, what I think is more meaningful is that companies that combine EX and CX empower employees to feel accountable for customer outcomes, providing them a greater sense of meaning in the work that they do, and builds a culture that solves for human needs around a purpose. This is the takeaway societal benefit or societal impact, and why I believe this is what all companies should do. And so I'd like for you to consider, what experience are you providing for your customers? Whether they're internal, you might have internal clients within your business because you support a department or a person or a role within the business, or it might be external and you do have a client-facing role. But consider for yourself, what experience do you provide for your customers, and how might you make it remarkable? Thank you. Thank you so much also for your contribution in the chat. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to address all of the comments there, but I'm really pleased to see so much activity.
They're a chatty lot, people that come to our events. That's why I love running certain events. Do you know, that was amazing. It was actually making me reflect a little bit on the way we as a team here deliver to our community, who are all sitting on the other end of the platform here. Certainly those glorious moments when the platform doesn't work exactly as we wish is always the fun one about delivering some customer service. So does anyone have any final questions for Nikki at all? And I will remind you that tomorrow at 2:15, she's coming on with her partner in crime, Ross Hastings. We are calling him our ally. You are our hero. And they are running a workshop about creating this, which I think will be absolutely amazing, given that we have our internal customers. We're also trying to get people like hiring managers, if we're in TA, or people managers, to work better with their employees or their candidates and to deliver that great experience. We bang on about candidate experience. It's one of our biggest bugbears in TA. And Paula Kilby's going to do a presentation on it. So this ability to turn it into a customer experience and deliver outcomes really important.